Tell us what's changed since you were in our studios in July.
Thank you. So we're excited about the fact that we're now in a position to potentially accelerate getting this medicine to patients who so urgently need it. Let me remind you that there are 3 million patients living with persistent depression in the US. Fewer than 5% of them today are treated with a medicine that was actually specifically studied for or is approved for treatment-resistant depression. And this is depression that is chronic, it's refractory, often people are unable to work. It has dramatic direct healthcare costs in terms of costs of emergency room admissions, in psychiatric care, but it also has real social costs for these people. So what's changed is we've had a really excellent conversation with the FDA about their desire to see, subject to us continuing to produce really strong results in terms of efficacy and safety, their desire to see this moved more quickly. We've completed the enrollment in our second final stage study, which we did ahead of expectations, which is really down to the great...
So this is a phase 3?
This is a phase 3. This is the second of our final stage studies. We've completed the enrollment of that. We expect to have the primary data from that in first quarter of next year. That will give us the second of our final stage studies. And with that, we are actually excited to be able to submit that to the agency and look to an accelerated approval.
Exciting.
Wow, that sounds like a really big move. I'm curious, just remind us, and we were talking with our healthcare team, how you guys designed the trials or research program to avoid some of the pitfalls that we've seen with, I think about the ecstasy and the MDMA drug application, that was for PTSD. How did you guys avoid some of those pitfalls?
So first, we had the opportunity to learn from some of the lessons. We've been in an excellent dialogue with the FDA now for some 6 or 7 years since we first started this process. Yeah, as we know, developing new medicines takes a long time and a lot of commitment.
Yeah.
We've done this in a very robust and rigorous way. We are collecting full side effect data. We're collecting all the issues, not just potential side effects such as headache and fatigue, which are transient, but also things like liking and so on, to make sure that there is really no abuse potential for this. And we've been collecting that right from the get-go.
Is there any abuse potential for this?
There is no history in psilocybin of people actually seeking it out or of any abuse potential with psilocybin, which is an important point.
I'm putting my investor hat on for a moment, and I need to ask you about intellectual property and how you handle something like that, because psychedelic compounds don't sort of fit comfortably into that compound, if you will, because a lot of them are natural. They can't really be patented, if you will. So how do you deal with that, and to what extent is your medicine, hold patents or have intellectual property?
So our medicine, COMP360, is a fully synthetic formulation of psilocybin.
Oh, okay.
We have polyphenol patents that address that, and therefore we have robust protection till 2038 with the potential for extension around that, because again, we went for a fully synthetic modern medicine.
Have you talked directly with the Health and Human Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy?
We are focused on an excellent relationship with the psychiatry division of the FDA.
Okay.
We've been working with the same folks for 7 years.
Because he has certainly made some commentary around this that has given, hopes and expectations that this would move along more rapidly.
We're happy that there are senior figures in the administration who believe, like us, in the potential for psychedelic therapy, but we're really focused on delivering the right efficacy and safety through our studies and working directly with the division that's going to approve us.
So trial 3, the third phase next year, early next year, give us an idea of a timeline. I mean, when might we see something like this come to market?
We will get the primary data, as I said, in first quarter of next year.
Right.
We will need to submit some more data later in the year, but we are looking forward to being in a position to complete a submission to the FDA in the latter part of next year, and then we'll work with them as expeditiously as possible on a potential regulatory approval.
So 2026, 2027? I know this stuff all takes long, and I know we constantly am asking you, but I think because it's been so much out there for a while, a decade and then some, right? I think we're all trying to, certainly for an investing audience, understand when this actually hits the market.
We are preparing to be ready for a commercial launch from the end of 2026.
Ah, he said it. Well, thank you.
What does something like this What does something like this cost?
That's the question.
So it's premature to discuss the pricing for this at the moment. First, we actually still need to see some of the longer term results from our studies.
Right.
In particular, we need to see over the course of the first 6 months what the potential for a second dose is, and really therefore how many potential sessions that a patient may need to have in a given year.
That's a great question because you're talking sessions. So this is not a drug that someone would continue to take, or a lifelong sort of drug, if you will.
Absolutely, and it's a really important point there. What we have shown in our study so far is that a single session can produce a dramatic response that lasts for 6 weeks.
Wow.
Today, either it's a daily oral or there is a product, esketamine, which you will need to take maybe 30 to 50 times a year. What we are showing is truly transformative, therefore, for these patients with this infrequent sessions.
We're talking with Kabir Nath. He's Chief Executive Officer of Compass Pathways. Ticker is CMPS. He's here in our Bloomberg studio, Bloomberg headquarters. Kabir, one of the things I think about then is, if all goes as you anticipate, and you've talked about the market for like who this is for specifically, then do you move on to other uses and other treatments, whether it's PTSD, whether it's drug addiction? Like, I'm just curious how far you can go with this.
Yes, thank you, Carol. And we are designing, have in fact already designed and finalized the design of a study in PTSD. PTSD affects 13 million people in America. And while there's this view that it's prevalent among veterans and so on, it absolutely is. That's actually only around 15% of that population.
Only 15%. Wow.
15%. Actually, 60% of people suffering with PTSD are women. And so this is a very large population. The only 2 drugs, medicines approved for PTSD, were approved in the last century. So this
we
is
could use something new.
Something different.
And so we are very excited about that. We have designed a study, and then we will be kicking that off next year.
I want to go back to the question of price.
Sure.
What about insurance, and how does that play a part in all of this?
From the get-go, Compass was set up in order to ensure broad and equitable access for patients, and that means the ability to work with insurers, both commercial and government. With the data we've already shown, as I say, a single administration producing statistically significant reductions in depressive symptoms after 6 weeks, we've already started to demonstrate the value that this can bring to the healthcare system. Patients living with persistent depression frequently end up in the emergency room. They sometimes have inpatient psychiatric care. There are direct costs to healthcare systems, and we have already started to demonstrate the value.